One of my greatest pleasures and satisfaction in my young life has been the blessing of having men and women who are much brighter than I am, much more brilliant than I am, associate and relate to what we do at African Writers Endowment. I'm going to introduce some of them, some of them that are here. About 3 of them will join us on the panel for the next segment. Let me, already, you've heard about my brother, Dr. Chidi Amuta, the president of the Literary Society of Port Harcourt. He's also an author himself, the subject matter of which has included Prince of the Niger. Ogaga is going to have a little bit of disagreement over that subject matter, but that's what writing is all about, to debate and to express our views. Let me also recognize someone who has joined us from Jackson, Mississippi. She is a professor of English, or teaches English at Jackson State University, Professor Helen Chukwuma. Professor Chukwuma, you would want to know, was a teacher of the governor, Governor Chibuike Amaechi. Please. I want to acknowledge also the presence of the president of Zumunta Tri-State Area, Alhaji Abdullahi Dauda. Please. If you look in your program booklet, the first page, or rather the inside front cover of that page, identifies a couple of authors. One of them flew in from Tampa, Florida to join us here tonight. She is retired as a professor. He is retired as a professor, but he continues to teach every now and then. He is the author of the book, Progression, U.S. Policy Towards Africa, and you will see the cover of the book and the information about the book. We do have many copies of the book. We encourage everyone here to pick up a copy. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Onhebulam, Professor Waja Onhebulam, please. And now I will introduce, again, those who have been supportive of our efforts over the years, but who will now join us on the panel to pay tribute to Professor Chinua Achebe. The lead presenter in that effort is a living history, as it were. He was a prominent diplomat for the nation of Nigeria prior to 1967, and when the occurrence that occurred in the nation and the emergence of the state of Biafra, or the Republic of Biafra, he became an ambassador to Eastern Africa and other places, was in fact the most successful diplomat, the most consequential diplomat in the in the Biafran envoy at the time, succeeded in getting recognition for the short-lived nation from Tanzania, Zambia, and other nations. He is also the author of In Truth, for Justice and Honor, which is a memoir of his service to the nation of Nigeria and to the short-lived nation of the Republic of Biafra. Ladies and gentlemen, this young man in a few months will be turning 90 years old. And he puts me to shame the way he looks, and I'm only 48. He is strong, and he's still going on. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Austin Oku. Professor Austin Oku. The next gentleman is one of my 3 greatest intellectual heroes. In fact, 2 of them are going to be here by the end, before this is all over. We had hoped that the 3rd one would be here too, but we just got remarks from him. Professor FALOLA and Professor Asante are competing for who is the most published scholar of African descent. The last time, I think, Professor TOYIN FALOLA's writings and publications, I'm talking about books, not articles, I believe has exceeded 80 already. That is what the case is. So he's probably the most published until Professor Asante joins us tonight, and we will tell you how many books he has also authored. Professor TOYIN FALOLA was an honoree, one of our honorees at Quintessence Award in the past. He is currently a professor of history at the University of Texas in Austin. He has joined us here from Austin, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the distinguished Professor TOYIN FALOLA. And we have also a distinguished professor who has made or has become an expert in the subject of Achebe himself, written some books that have become reference books regarding Achebe as an influential historical figure and his literature and the impact of that literature in the world. He is currently also a professor in Connecticut University. He's an author of several books himself, including Blood and Bravery, which is an account of some of those who fought during the Nigeria-Biafra War. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor KALU OGBA. Professor Achebe told us that like the ant hills of the savannah, we stand to tell the green grasses of today about the brush fires of yesterday. It is important that we pay tribute and always remember our heroes. In this case, the Great Spirit has moved into a different realm. As we begin this segment, I ask all of you to please stand in a moment of silence for Professor Chinua Achebe and now Kofi Awana, who we just lost. May the soul of our departed heroes rest in peace. At this point, we'll get straight to the tributes, and I will ask someone who had worked closely with Professor Achebe in several ways and several sectors to lead this effort. And we ask that to the extent possible that we keep the remarks as short as possible so that we can hear from the governor before we disperse for the next event later tonight. Professor Oku, please.
I thank Dr. UGORJI for inviting me and Mrs. Oku to come and join you this afternoon. When you come into a function and you are older than the governor who's been honored today, that shows you how old you are and how many changes have been made. I got up at 5 o'clock this morning to prepare to come to this occasion. And I'm surprised that I'm managing to stand here to talk to you. So if I sound incoherent, please don't blame me. Blame it to the old man called old age. But I do the best I can to be with you and to give you a few of my feelings. I wanted to comment a little about the wonderful presentations they made. And as they were speaking, I was seeing myself back again to Ahoda, where I was a divisional officer. I did many things to reunite our brothers of that area with the Igbo hinterland, arranging wrestling, traditional wrestling, between Ahoda and Owerri people to which I belong, organizing soccer matches between the two units, reconnecting the Douglas O Road from Eche back to Owerri, working with Chief Mpi, Chief Muke, and several other people from the Rivers area. So I'm delighted to see our governor, young man. I didn't even recognize him when I saw him. So I'm not surprised that he has the vision he has and he's doing what he's doing in the Rivers, which I think will translate in due course to a greater calling for him in the service of Nigeria. So I thank them for their presentations. I had wanted to talk more about that, but our convener here says limit the time. I wanted to make comments about the book capital for 2014 and let you know that Port Harcourt really merits it historically. It's not because of the bidding, probably. It's not because of any competition. That city, most of you don't know, was for many years the center where if you needed any book, the only place you could go to buy it was the Samuel's Book Store that I think was located in Jubilee Road. If I'm mistaken, please correct me. I hope my memory serves me right. That was Port Harcourt. And that was the reason why there was no Nigerian, especially Eastern Nigerians, who ever made it that never lived in Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt is the bridge between the Igbo hinterland and our brothers in the riverine areas. And thus you see Port Harcourt, a multicultural community, made up of Igbos, made up of Efiks, made up of the Bibios, our brothers from the West Yoruba. So Port Harcourt is not a one-ethnic town. In fact, it's multi-ethnic town. Hence we call it the Garden City. Called the Garden City. Why was it called the Garden City? A city of joy, a city where people were free, a place where you were relaxed, where you enjoyed everybody's company. I happen to be a product of Enitona High School. Enitona. Who established Enitona? Enitona was built by a Sierra Leonean, Reverend Post Johnson, a descendant of slaves who forgot Sierra Leone and decided to come to that part of Nigeria to contribute in the civilization of our people. I remember his songs, "Walk for the night is coming," as he said his prayers every morning when we gathered at the assembly hall. That was Port Harcourt. That was Port Harcourt. So I'm not surprised when this award was given to Port Harcourt. And I'm not surprised that has a governor with the headquarters there. The future for him is very bright, and I hope, and we all pray for him, that his political ambitions will come through. As to the topic that the convener has imposed upon me, let me tell you, I am a respecter of African culture. I am an adherent of our own culture. I fight for it. If you read my book, which I have here, I hope you buy some copies, and I will even autograph them for you. This handsome man here, this is his book. That's how he was some years ago. If you can recognize this man here, and when you see it, judge of yourselves when you approach 90, how are you going to be? Think about it, but don't let it spoil your evening. So what I do here is I develop a lot of parts of this book talking about Igbo culture and about our ancestors. And I believe our ancestors taught us many wonderful things. And those of us who are Christians, and I'm one of them, don't forget we are also worship the ancestors. That is the reason why you have all the names you have. You don't know who they are, but you are Jonathan, you are Joseph, you are Matthew, you are Mary, you are Magdalene, you are everything. But when we talk about our own ancestors, some of us take umbrage. We are not worshiping them, we are respecting them. Talking about my brother, Achebe, is a few years younger than I am. I will allow Professor KALU and Professor FALOLA to talk about him. I can only add a few words in letting you know that man was a special man. He was a great man. It's not because he wrote things fall apart. It was because of what he was. A good man or a good woman is a person who has a human heart. Is a person who relates to his people. Eventually, he studied Igbo culture, he knew the Igbo culture, and he wrote about us in Things Fall Apart, and we reverence him for that. Things Fall Apart has become one of the classics in the literary world. The scholars here by my left will tell you how many languages that book has been translated to. What does it mean? It means the recognition of African writers being recognized and accepted as worthy of such recognition. And it's a pride to all of us. And who did it? Chinua Achebe. But as I said this to you, I hold my tongue in saying, even when the Vatican beatifies people for sainthood, the Pope appoints somebody called the devil's advocate. The devil's advocate is a person who digs into what is wrong or with the person who is going to be made a saint. I can only stop here and say that it was reservation that on this day where I'm supposed to eulogize him, I am going to take the readers, you people who read his book, the new book he published before he died, to know there are some conflicts between these two books. As a matter of fact, my book, In Truth for Justice and Honor, I can say, is an inducement to his writing this book. There was a country which I think, if I were to advise him, he shouldn't have written. There are some conflicts in this. So that is much I can say about it. I'm not going to give you specifics of areas where things were said that in my mind are not completely so. As scholars, we have to take note of this. This book, you may not have seen it. Professor OGBA published it. It's called General Ojukwu, The Legend of Biafra. And as the author, who is my good brother in New Haven, told me, this book is really a recording of Ojukwu's statements. And here again, this book should be taken as a propagandist material, pure propaganda, which I challenge in my book. And in challenging him, even though I work very well with him, I think I stepped on some people's toes and then led them to writing things that are not true. That's the only thing I can say about it. And as scholars, when you read, please read with discernment. Intellectuals are supposed to be unbiased. Intellectuals are supposed to be intelligent. Intellectuals are supposed to know what they write and write what they know. Please get that sentence. Write what you know and know what you write. I said it in my introduction. Unfortunately, that has not been so with some people. So with these few words, Mr. Convener, and I'm holding my tongue as I'm saying what I'm saying, I contribute and I join you and I pray with you for this repose of our brother who departed. May God show him his mercy. May he be received in the bosom of Almighty God. May the good he did go with him. And with these few words, ladies and gentlemen, I yield and ask others to speak about him. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Professor Oku. Please give him another round of applause. As I did say earlier, he is indeed a living history. We at African Writers, in collaboration with Tall Drums Documentaries, we do plan to have an interview with him regarding the subject matter he alluded to, which is essentially the now ongoing debate between his own memoirs and Professor Chinua Achebe's memoirs. And we'll bring that to you soon by way of www.talldrums.com. At this point, let me invite my hero, Professor Tony FALOLA, to please speak.
It's going to be a difficult performance following the elder statement. And it reminds me of a proverb that when you lose your teeth and you wear denture, it means maybe you are not old enough, because an old man should be able to reveal the mouth without the teeth. And he's spoken with a great deal of wisdom and with courage, even to the face of our colleague who is sitting down there. I was very happy when he mentioned Port Johnson and Port Harcourt. I have a series by the University of Rochester Press, and we did a book on him and his role in Port Harcourt. Like with most books published in the West, things do not get to some of these books do not get to Africa, which is very unfortunate. But now that you've mentioned it, maybe I will find some copies, not today because I don't have them, and make them available to our colleagues in Port Harcourt. I serve on the Scholars Council of the Library of Congress, and we're looking forward to participating in the Port Harcourt Book Fair. The Library of Congress will be coming, and that's something we've discussed about. I know Professor Achebe in person, and also two of his children are also historians, and we've corresponded a great deal. And if you read his book, you will see appear in footnotes a few times in that controversial book. What I want to read has been published. A book just came out by Bembosa Books on Achebe Tribute. And another book by James Corey and A.W.E will be released, selecting these tributes. And a moment ago, Professor Ogumbi mentioned Shoyinka, who is also turning 80. And another book of tribute will be released on Professor Shoyinka as well. Perhaps no other figure represents the pride of Nigeria better than Chinua Achebe. As a writer, scholar, and activist, he brought to light both the colonial and post-colonial reality of Nigeria through his globally renowned writings, exposing the world to Africa in a way that no one has matched before or since. He was born on November 16, 1930, for those of you who don't know, in the Igbo town of Ogidi, located in eastern Nigeria, and it's been a privilege for me to have been there a few times. Born into a family that fully represented the complexities of the colonial experience, he was raised by his parents who were converts to the Protestant Church Mission Society, but who also respected the traditional religious and cultural customs of the Igbo people, including storytelling. An excellent student, Achebe did well in school and earned a scholarship for his university studies. The University College, now the University of Ibadan, was the first university in Nigeria, opened in 1948 in anticipation of Nigerian independence. Achebe thrived there as well. He originally wanted to study medicine, but later English, history, and theology. It was in university that he began his career as a writer, writing essays, short stories, and serving as editor of the university's newspaper. It was also during his time at university that Achebe began to critically compare the religions of Christianity and those of traditional Africa, as well as examine European literature and colonialism. It is these themes and ideas that come forth in all of his work. Beginning in 1958 with his seminal Things Fall Apart, following a few years later with No Longer At Ease, the import of these works cannot be understated. Often students of only exposure to African literature, even through the university level, is Achebe's work. Yet through Achebe, readers are exposed to some of the most poignant and important themes in African history. I want to skip, I will post this to UGORJI, who will make it available to members of the audience. Because I saw him holding his pen to ask me to sit down, but I will deny him that power. Let me conclude by saying that when he died at the age of 82, he left without a Nobel Prize. However, he left a legacy that has far-reaching consequences. African literature was legitimized through the popularity of his novels. Things Fall Apart alone has sold more than 10 million copies in more than 50 languages. And we now have a host of Nigerian and African authors beautifully portraying the reality that is and has been Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor FALOLA. Please give him another round of applause. And I thank him very much for being brief and to the point. You will also find published a piece that I wrote after Professor Achebe joined the Ancestors. He was the honorary world chairman of the African Writers Endowment. One of the greatest honors of my life had been to work with him and have him essentially take me as a son. And I did have an opportunity to work with some of his children as well. So if you do get a chance, Google either me, UGORJI, you'll see the tribute Achebe as metaphor. There is, of course, this debate as to whether the inscription, Father of African Literature, can be solely placed on the shoulders of Professor Achebe. But that's, of course, the beauty of the realm that those who practice the sweet science of writing, the beauty of debate. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor OGBA.
Nayoku, Professor FALOLA. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Igbo by birth, I'm Igbo by upbringing, and I'm Igbo by worldview. For that reason, in Igbo country, when the elder has spoken, the young only clears the table. So I'm here only to make a few remarks because we've heard from the elders. Indeed, I have devoted 80% of my published scholarship on Chinua Achebe. And It is not true that Chinua Achebe is the father of African literature. I've never believed in it. Chinua Achebe himself didn't believe in it. But what he is the starter of what we call modern African novel. Literature is a wide area that you cannot attribute it to one particular person. Achebe merely transformed the African novel into a hybrid novel, and that is the difference. I knew Achebe when I was still a student at University of Nigeria, Nsukka, in 1970. And since then, I have followed his scholarship. When I was doing my dissertation in 1980-81 at University of Texas, Nsukka, my first impulse was to do it on an American writer, Faulkner. But then I remembered what Achebe said in one of the conferences I attended. He warned Africans not to meddle with gods. We place all the gods by way of mask and all that. So that is it. In terms of scholarship, I praise FALOLA very much. I'm older than he, but he has done so much that I regret not including his name when I published my book called The Nigerian Americans in 2003. I did circulate invitations. Specifically, I had a friend called Frank Arasanya, who was then teaching at Yale, to help collect some facts from Yoruba people. And all those that I approached, nobody wanted to contribute. And when I discovered FALOLA, I went into his website and found out that he has done so much, and he continues to do so much. If there are young scholars here, young teachers, please do go into his website, and if you had anything to publish, go to him. He actually has just accepted my memoir, and the memoir is coming out next month. So I thank him. This is the first time I've met him in person, but we've been talking. Finally, before I read the tribute, there was a lot of noise made about Chinua Achebe's final book. There was a country. I called it noise because uneducated people were making it a kind of tribal war. And even people who I would call educated scholars followed in making the noise. So for that reason, I wrote a review of it. And the review is coming out next month again. It will be published in JALA, that is Journal of African Literature Association, Volume 9, Number 7. So if anybody cares, they can do it. And I may leave a hard copy here with the record delegation. Indeed, when Nanya Ukwu, Professor Ukwu wrote his book, was doing it, I had interviewed General Juku in Greenbelt, Maryland. from the interview I did for a journal, he pleaded with me to do a biography of him. So I did, to the best of my knowledge. When that book came out, I sent a copy to Professor Oku, and Professor Oku didn't talk to me for months. So, so if somebody says here that he's confronting me even in my face, it's not something that is painful. It isn't, because I know him. I accept him. I adore him as a father. And I go to his house whenever I have personal problems. At the time he complained to me, I told him, "Nai, that is food for scholarship. If what I have written is bad, then let us find somebody who will contradict me, and both of us will benefit from it. If Professor Oku says this is bad, what I said is bad on page this and that, that will compel good readers to go to my book. And if I did the wrong thing, people will read it and write their own, and scholarship develops that way." But we laughed over it.